The next episodes of Thriving Construction come straight from Future Build. Huge thanks to Eco Cocoon. The space was great for chats, acoustics, and even better well-being.
I think there's an inevitability that we're all going to be working in a much more digitized manner. It's already becoming not optional in many other parts of our lives. You know, we've seen the huge disruption, even, let's say, in the televisions that we watch, TV viewing. We've seen the kind of failure of the video rental companies that all of us would have used in the 80s. So the Blockbusters thought they had a firm business, but Netflix, which started off as a postal video service or the DVD service, realized that they could go digital streaming, and now everybody's subscribing to, whether it's Netflix, Apple, Disney, Amazon Prime, or just using iPlayer and ITV player and all that, so the way we consume media has changed, and it will continue to innovate, but it's going to be digital. Nobody's going to go back to having video cassette players. I know there's a bit of people like their LPs now, we've got the vinyl revival, but that's the kind of,
it's not going to be the mass market.
No, I know. And I like it as well, because it's a bit legacy. It's got something nice about that tangible feel of these things. And I certainly remember as a child looking at record covers, because there used to be amazing record covers in the 70s and 80s that would, you'd buy it because it looks cool. It had nothing to do with the music, but it was part of the buying experience. So yeah, there will always be, I think, a space for that. But the vast majority of us will be streaming music, streaming TV. So why not stream data for construction? Whether you're a tradesperson wanting to buy, I don't know, toilets to fit in because you're a plumber. Well, can I stream? Where can I buy it? Which local builders merchants got the best deals? Or who have I got a relationship with? Who can supply on time at the right place? Well, it's already happening, but it's just going to become more and more the natural way of working. And as you go into the project management and construction management sphere, of course, giving and applying digital tools gives you great confidence that you've thought things through. And then if you can then link that again to the models of the design, you can do that simulation I talked about. Why wouldn't you simulate it and build it in the virtual before you can screw it up in the physical? So, I think this is just a natural trajectory that we're going to all follow. And particularly for the larger projects. I mean, I'm not suggesting that every house extension is going to have a full 3D model and digital twin, but part of me says, but why wouldn't you? Because it makes sense.
So the desire that Bill Gates had was to put a computer or a PC on everybody's desk.
Yeah.
Back then, when he came up with that was not in anyone's mind, really, that desire. So why not have a digital twin for an extension or a small?
Well, of course, yeah. I mean, my company, Autodesk, we often suggest that we democratize technology, by which we mean that we make it accessible to anyone. So even if you are just a jobbing builder or a local architect doing house extensions, why shouldn't you use these digital tools? The funny thing is that, of course, there is a small investment and a learning curve to overcome. But my experience is that after 2 or 3 passes where you've kind of made some mistakes and you've learned how not to do it, you're then actually on this continuous improvement where you will deliver more effectively, more efficiently. You can then spread your skills. So if you're an architect and you design a house extension and you do it in a model-based way, you can start bolting on other services because you can actually say, well, I can actually do a structural analysis, or I can send it to the engineer for them to do a structural analysis, or I can do a computational fluid dynamics to show how this will perform in the event of a fire, which is obviously a great concern, but I can actually then prove to the fire risk assessors, no, we've tested that and we've installed the right materials to suppress, but we can also simulate the evacuation for the residents of this thing. And why wouldn't you then simulate the construction with a contractor? And because actually all these things they're not freebies, but they're natural outputs or opportunities that come from working in this digital manner. And then I was actually on the panel earlier here at Future Build when I did say something else, is that for me, I'm a naturally lazy person, by which I mean, I don't want to work hard. I want to work smarter. So most of these digital solutions allow us to do things quicker, hopefully easier, and hopefully better as well. So again, to me, it's a no-brainer, rather than saying, oh, well, we always did it like this, so we should carry on doing it like this. But I'm not suggesting that we should reduce quality. I think that's something we need to protect.
But that's interesting, isn't it? That you've gone there with your thought pattern is, just because I want it easier, then I need to kind of just clarify that I'm not saying that we need to cut corners. So yeah, ease equates to cut corners. So it's easier now for me to travel to France than it would have been 100 years ago, than it would have been 200 years ago. But I'm safer now to travel to France than I would have been 100 years ago, and definitely 200 years ago. Not only is it easier, but it's also safer.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that the thought pattern there for you at that moment, and this is common, right? This is why I'm bringing it up, is that when we think of ease, we think of reduced, or we're afraid of reducing quality or safety or outcome or reliability, as opposed to improving it. But surely that's the whole ease wrapped up together, because if you do it and you cut corners and it's unreliable, it then becomes harder.
No, I mean, it's, I think often we associate ease with cheaper.
That's right.
And I think it was John Glenn when he came down after doing a first orbit in one of the earlier, I think it was Apollo missions or predecessors, that they said, oh, what did it feel like being up in space? And he went, well, it was great going around in a capsule built by the lowest bidder, because there was this fear that it was done on the cheap and he was being put at risk. But I fully agree that actually, if we can be innovative, and I think innovation is perhaps the better way to describe this, and put in all those considerations around safety, quality, competence in delivery, which our industry needs. We need to have competent people doing work. Then you'll still have the confidence that this is good, but it might have been done quicker.
Thanks for watching to the end. I think that you'll like this, but before you do that, just make sure that you've commented and liked below, and also that you subscribed.